What is art? My name is Julia Halim. And a while ago, I went with a friend of mine to an art gallery, and we saw this. This is an artwork by Ugandan contemporary artist Donald Waswad titled Specimen X, Molokoni, Animal Bones in Jar. We looked at this piece, my friend and I, and she questioned its right in having a place in the art gallery at all. And while I disagreed, I didn't really have anything to say in response, because I mean, look at it. You could see where she was coming from. Now, this was in 2016, so when I say a while back, I really do mean a while back, right? But that instance really stuck with me, because it was what first led me to question, what is art? Now, this contemplation resurfaced with the arrival of my IGCSE results in August. These were my final pieces, for the themes of disorder and femininity. Now, those of us who have done art as a subject or are currently doing art as a subject know what I'm talking about, in that the grade boundaries are insane. Like, everyone fails, right? So I guess I really don't have anyone to blame but myself. But anyways, these were my final pieces. And these are some of my best work, if you'll allow me to say so myself. But what did they get me? A D, 50% on the dot. So while I wasn't surprised, I still was slightly disappointed, because who are these people to determine that the time and effort that I put into creating this painting wasn't enough to give a passing grade? That my art is good and someone else's isn't, or vice versa. Now, some of you might be thinking, like, why is she making such a big deal out of this? Like, it really isn't that deep, you know? Like, if you failed, you failed. Like, suck it up and move on. And besides, it can't really be that hard to determine what actually is art. If it's beautiful, if it's visually appealing, then that's art. Well, let me ask you this. Is this art? Now, this image is very obviously AI-generated, but it is visually appealing. Wouldn't it be unfair to consider this art over a real human being's time, effort, and skill, and creativity? And what about this? This is an originally untitled piece, now called by art historians Saturn Devouring His Sun. This was painted on the walls of the artist's very own home. Now, this is a rather uncomfortable painting that tends to intimidate people. Not very visually appealing in the sense at all. But does that make it less of an artwork than something that confines to our society's conformities of what deserves to be called beautiful? And what about performative pieces, dance, fashion? Are those art? Now, let me tell you the Oxford definition of art. Art, the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination, typically in a visual form, such as painting or sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Now, the two parts that stood out to me the most in this definition were human creative skill and imagination, and works to be appreciated. Human creative skill and imagination. Art is creative. Art is skill, but most of all, art is human. The human mind really is incredible, you know? I mean, this guy invented a whole new paint color that had never been seen before and placed it on the canvas flawlessly with not a single brushstroke to be seen, only for people to walk around saying, oh, I could do that, without even bothering to understand what the artwork actually is. Take the infamous banana stuck to a canvas with duct tape, which is what most people think of immediately when contemporary or modern art is mentioned. But what people often fail to realize is that the auction these pieces, the renditions of this piece are sold at, are part of the art. In the most recent rendition of this artwork, just November 2024, this was sold for an obscene amount of money, $6.2 million. But the artwork only ended when the buyer of the piece stood up, walked to the front, plucked the banana off the canvas, and ate it. Now, could he have achieved the exact same thing without dumping a mini fortune? Well, of course he could have, but that was the point. Such pieces are reflections of our societies and our values and emotions. Now, if we go back to our definition, the second part, works to be appreciated. This part stood out to me because it paints art as a result, as an effect of human actions and emotions rather than an independent entity or body of its own. Something that only exists as a concept because we as humans have decided it does. Which then brings me to question, who gets to decide what art is and isn't? And on what basis do they determine what qualifies? Now, this all heavily depends on the society, both the art and the judge of the art come from, and how these societies developed and evolved over time. In many ancient societies, art was very closely tied to spirituality and religion. Egyptian tombs explored by archaeologists were adorned with paintings and frescoes depicting pharaohs, gods, and the afterlife. Similarly, the Mesopotamians created grand sculptures to obtain divine favor from their gods, from their supernatural. Now, throughout history, art has been a medium of invoking divine power and storytelling, which then led to the formation of hieroglyphics in Egypt, which then evolved into a linguistically articulate alphabet. If we walk over to another part of the world, the Indus Valley, in the northwestern regions of South Asia, my bad. Now, these people created artistic seals and used them to record trade and identify merchants. They were the first to imprint sigils and symbols on metallurgy. Their art led to architecture, making advanced buildings and sewage systems predating those found in even ancient Rome. And their trade secrets, they so valued that up to this very day, we have very little knowledge, interpretation, or understanding of their language. The discovery of the decoding system of these sigils would change our understanding of the ancient world as we know it. But to those people back then, that might have been just as much art as these are to us English speakers. But to modern archaeologists and historians, these are not only art, but priceless works, communicating unique messages based on the needs, values, and lifestyles of the individual societies they come from. And this just goes to prove that what art is really does change over time and with our societies, evolving based on our views, cultures, system, and social structures. Art depicts the struggles we face and the ones we've already overcome. Which now leads me to say, why does this actually matter? With the rise in technology, the lines separating reality from the digital world are getting more and more blurred every single day. You might not notice it now, but in 50 years when you're the one saying, "Oh, back when I was your age," you look back on today, among many other days of your youth, and shock yourself with the realization that reality isn't really real after all. Which is why it is so important now more than ever to keep the human parts of our society alive through engagement and interaction such as art in all its forms. Because technology can only recreate, never innovate. And with AI stealing artworks and infringing on copyright, contemporary, performance, and non-traditional art might just be what keeps that human touch in an otherwise digitally swarmed and flooded world. Because at the end of the day, I believe that all art is art. And that's everything human beings do, really. From the Burj Khalifa to your 6-year-old cousin's scribbles on the wall. Because art is just as human as humans are art. Thank you.